What is up, guys? It's Mason once again, bringing you a game from the HBY20 tournament, and this game is from round 5 where Baffour faces Bonsu. I've said I would analyze a game from Baffour, and here it is, so I do not break my promises. Okay, let's get right into it. I don't want to stretch this. D4 by white, D5, and then bishop to G5, an already strange move. This move basically tries to prevent any development on the king side, because you usually like to develop your pawn to E6, bishop to E7 or to B4, and knight to F6 and castle king side. So that's the main idea behind this move. Though I feel like by developing a fianchettoed position, it might not be as effective. Okay, so we have C5, E3, queen to B6. Now, queen to B6, the main idea with queen to B6 is to add pressure to this D4 pawn and to subtly add pressure to this B2 pawn. Now, the reason I say subtly here is because you can, as white, you can play knight to C3 here, and if black isn't watching the position and plays queen to B2, you just capture on D5 and you are targeting the C7 square, and it's going to be hard for black to defend, considering that the queen can't come into this square and most of the squares on this side of the board. So yeah, that's why it's a subtle pressure, but in other positions that is actually a scary move to see. So Bonsu plays B3 here. I think that was he was worried about the queen takes on B2 move. We have bishop to F5, bishop to D3, and then bishop to G6. Now with this bishop to G6 move, I feel like black should just take. I don't know if he was worried about the fact that if he takes, white captures back with the pawn and has a strong center. But in this position, due to this pawn in particular, or this pressure on the center in particular, that fear doesn't exist. So I mean, this bishop is going to be very annoying, since that's going to be white attacking bishop. So if you have the chance to trade it off, I think there's no problem trading it off. Yeah, so let's just see, let's play this move I'm talking about. We have this, and then you realize that after takes here, if white is not watching and still continues to take, we have this move, and now white has to play more passively, develop the knight here, which is not really going to do much for him. Okay, so that's the main reason why I think takes is fine. Of course, the right move here would be after bishop takes, you should play queen takes. That's the main idea. Okay, so bishop G6 might be slightly inaccurate. Knight to F3, E6, preparing to develop the bishop. Castles queen side, and then knight to D7. Now I spoke to Baffour concerning this game. I was able to reach Bonsu in that I didn't contact Bonsu, but Baffour played knight to D7, and he actually bashed himself about this knight to D7 move. And let me just go through a few more lines, and I'll explain why knight to C6 is a slightly better move in this position. So we had here knight to C3, bishop to D6, knight to A4, queen to C7, rook to C1, rook to C8, D takes C5, knight takes C5, knight takes C5, queen takes C5, C4. Now keep this position in mind, and now let's go through it if black played knight to C6, which is a more active move and also puts more pressure on the central squares. Sorry, what is happening here? Okay, so now we have the same move format: knight to C3, C takes D4, knight to A4, queen to C7, E takes D4, bishop to H4, a quiet move. And the reason behind this, if white plays C4, after pawn takes, you have knight to D4, and the knight can't capture back due to the pin on the queen. The other thing I want you to note here is that this queen is not under that pressure of the rook coming into C1, that pressure of the file, because the knight guards that square. And to say that, okay, it's pinned so you can push the pawns, actually you can't easily push the pawns to attack this knight. So this is a very stable and safe position, and now even white is bad because of this knight also. Okay, so a little slip there by Baffour. So now we have bishop to D6, knight to a4. Okay, we're going through these moves. Let's get back into it. So c4 here. And now black is always under this threat of captures because the queen is on pre. And so now we have f6, trying to push away that bishop and possibly develop this knight to e7. So f6, bishop to h4, e5, and bishop takes g6. Any other move will result in a fork with e4, forking the bishop and the knight. And we have h takes g6 and then bishop to g3. And in this position, white has all the cards, especially with this c takes move. White has all the cards here, so black should look for a way to stabilize his position, get some counterplay going, not even counterplay, get some play going on his side of the board. But here Baffour plays a very bad move. It makes sense in a sense. Does it actually make sense? I'll leave that to you to decide. But he plays the move e4. I said it makes sense, but actually I don't think it really makes that much sense. Actually, he actually bashed himself for this move as well, because he realized that it opens the d4 out square. It becomes a very strong output for the knight, as it has influence on a lot of squares within his opponent's position. So it makes sense why the why d4 doesn't sound like a very good move. I think just knight to e4 here is an okay move, and it saves black from so many problems, which you will see later on. Okay, so we have e4 here, and then we have knight to d4. Was it knight to d4? Okay, so in this position, you don't have to play knight to d4 immediately. You could actually just play this b4, queen moves back, knight to d4, bishop takes, h takes. And if here black isn't watching and decides that, you know what, let me take the pawn so that my opponent doesn't have the chance to play this sort of discovered attack on my position, and takes the pawn, we have knight to b5, and with a basic fork threat, but here it's a forcing move since he attacks the queen. So queen to d7 and knight to d6 check, forking the king and the rook, and whatever happens, the rook is gone. So that's just by the way. Okay, so we have knight to d4 here, pawn takes, and f takes g3. I don't get the reason behind this move, because it seems slightly inaccurate, because maybe he just wants to make a file open for his rook, or maybe he's afraid of maybe some ideas with coming in here with the queen and then checkmating on this square. But I don't see black doing that kind of maneuver in a very short amount of time. I think white has enough time to escape, so I can't really justify this f takes g3 move, though I think in some other variations I calculated f takes g3 is actually the best move, but in this position it isn't. We have a6, which is a blunder because of a key square I will show as the variation continues. So we have c takes d5, queen takes c1, queen takes c1, rook takes c1, rook takes c1, and king to d7. We have knight to e6, king to d6, and now rook to c8. And this is where the issue is. This knight can't move because it loses the rook, and this rook can't move because it loses the knight. So it's basically black is playing down two pieces. You could say that, okay, let's assume this rook also can't move. At least he has a knight, so black is playing down two pieces. This is a very bad position. Let me just give you a sneak peek. It's a very bad position against black. So this is actually what happened in the game, but let's get into what should have been played, which was rather than a6, actually Baffour mentioned this, that it was a bad move. Rather than a6, knight to e7 is good, and we realized that what is so good about knight to e7, this square. Now rook to c8 is not playable because the knight covers the square. Okay, so now let's get back into it. We have the following moves, which we've already calculated, and now we have here. Now king takes, we have knight to f4 check, knight takes g6, which is slightly inaccurate because it immediately alleviates the pressure that white has on this structure, in the sense that after knight takes g6, we have rook to h6, and then the move that actually makes his position very bad is knight to h4. This move can be considered as greedy, because the aim is to come to f5, forking the king and the rook. And I don't know where the benefit of this move is because, like, I'm trying to say this move is bad. Like, it's bad because now it gives black the advantage. It makes black better. Let's just show the evaluation again. Not just by evaluation, in case you're thinking I'm just looking at the evaluation. Now, what do we have here? Look at this knight. Look at this knight. Where can it develop to? It's not just by evaluation that I'm saying that, or engine that I'm saying that, but look at this knight. Where can this knight go to? This knight is basically trapped. And now you've alleviated the pressure on this knight as well. And so now black is now active. And now here I'll say according to the engine winning, because my endgame's understanding is a little bit bad. So we have knight to e7, basically guarding the square. Rook to e8, rook to h5, and rook to d8 check, king to e6, rook to b8. And Baffour here told me that, okay, he realizes that the knight is trapped. I think he was going to try and push, if I remember what he told me, he was going to try and push to get the knight, but he decided against it because he felt like the pawns on the queen side were deadly. I hope I got that right. So he plays rook to b5 here, g4, basically trying to free the knight, g5, maybe, I think, to further make this knight inactive. I don't think g5 is a good idea, but I mean, there's no way this rook is also supporting the capturing this pawn in any way. So maybe g6 is a better move here. So after g5, we have knight to f5, knight takes f5, g takes f5, king takes f5, and this position is actually drawn. By evaluation, this position is actually drawn. I can't tell. Again, my endgame understanding is a little bit bad, but I don't think, maybe after something like h3, there's no easy entrance square for the king, and if the king can't enter into the position or break through the position, I don't think there's any activity or anything that can be done concerning winning the position, if I'm right. Okay, and now we have rook to e8, which is actually a bad move because of the next move. We have rook to a5 here, and after rook to a5, we get a4. Now Baffour doesn't play the right move here, but then the move you are looking for here is a4. The move you are looking here for is a4. But if the rook was here on b8, a4 is not possible because of the trades will not favor black. But here, if there was a trade, it favors, sorry. If there was a trade, it favors black. So that's why rook to sorry, that's why rook to e8 is bad. But Baffour doesn't do the right move here. He goes back, and after this trade again, the position is considered a draw. Rook back to b8, rook to e7, rook to f8, rook to d7, rook to b8. They are just doing some maneuvers. Actually, if the maneuvers continue, I think Baffour would have gone for a draw here. King to e5, g4, king to d5, trying to get his, I think this position is locked, so he's trying to get his king towards the side and then get rid of these pawns. Rook to c8, rook to d6, probably trying to get here and then block the file so that the king can continuously get to the square. Rook to c4, not allowing that. A5, king to f2, rook to c6, aiming to trade the rooks again, because I think this king cannot, like I said, enter this position. So if you can trade off the rooks, he enters into a winning endgame where these pawns fall and white can't really do much here. Rook to d4, check, king to e5, b4, rook to c2, check, king to g3. Now here white has to be very careful, because literally speaking, this is where white is not bad here. He doesn't make a bad move here, king to g3, but here white should be very careful because right now how would I put it, black's rook is inside enemy lines and he can actually cause a lot of problems or havoc around these lines. So white should be very careful about the power of this rook in his territory. We have rook to e2, like I said, be very careful. So now maybe try and, I don't know, block this. There's not going to be an easy way to even block. I think this is actually already lost. Allowing this move is already lost. I think just allowing this check is already lost. Maybe the best move would have been to bring your rook back and just guard against any entrance or infiltration by the rook. Yeah, so so just after b4, I think just rook here is just killer. And to make matters worse, Kwadwo wants to play the wrong move here. He plays b he plays b takes a5 here, and this automatically lose the game. Why does it lose the game? Because after takes here with check, even if the king moves into attack, we have king takes rook, which king takes rook, and this king can't capture the rook, and this is too much material to win. So this was a very interesting game. Of course, Kwadwo also had the pressure in the beginning. He made some subtle mistakes, especially with that knight move, and that's what cost him the position. I think the end game technique here was not very good, and that's how everything went wrong for him. So an advice to us all: learn the end games, and I'm taking that advice seriously because my end games are bad. So yeah, a very interesting game, and I hope you liked Baffour a little bit because of this game. I understand you might be like, oh, but he made many mistakes and he got by. Yeah, some people would have made the same mistakes and not be able to bounce back. So being able to bounce back from a mistake, I think I've seen even top players bounce back from big mistakes, but they were even 7 + 7 - 7, and they still won. So this is a very good game. I hope you love it. I hope you liked the analysis this time around, and yeah, we'll be trying to. So yeah, before I forget, if you have any games you'd actually want us to cover or analyze for you, just let us know in the comments down below. As always, check out our streams on twitch.tv/pen_mason. Follow our socials on Facebook and Twitter, and yeah, we'll get to chat. So I'll see you guys soon this evening, because I'll be posting this video right after I'm done. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.